we're going to get to study Matthew chapter 14 together. Sam Hall.
Much stuff in this chapter. I'm shaking a stick at it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Matthew 14. Are we going? Are y'all rolling? Like
Yeah.
that? How's my makeup?
I'll see you in a minute.
Alrighty. Connie has to go because she said, let me see if I can quote. I'm singing and playing this morning, and I actually want to sing and play the same songs the rest of them are singing and playing.
In the same key?
In the same key, too. So there you have it. Alrighty, Matthew chapter 14. Let me start off reading here. I want to read the first few verses here. It's about the death of John Baptist, and we're looking back. At that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard of the fame of Jesus, and said unto his servants, This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead, and therefore mighty works do show forth themselves in him. For Herod had laid hold of John, and bound him, and put him in prison for Herodias' sake, his brother Philip's wife. For John said unto him, It is not lawful for thee to have her. And when he would have put him to death, he feared the multitude, because they counted him as a prophet. But when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod. The young daughter of Herodias, young female, danced, probably suggestively, before this old coot man, Herod, weak, murderous leader. Verse 7 says, Whereupon he promised with an oath to give her whatsoever she would ask. And she, being before instructed of her mother, said, Give me here John Baptist's head in a charger. And the king was sorry. Bill, he said, I'm sorry. Nevertheless, for the oath's sake, and them which sat with him at meat, he commanded it to be given her. And he sent and beheaded John in the prison. And his head, John's head, John Baptist's head, the righteous man, the forerunner of Christ Jesus, his head was brought in a charger and given to the damsel, and she brought it to her mother. And his disciples came and took up the body and buried it, and went and told Jesus.
So what did she do with the head?
Flaunted over it, because this whore, Herodias, who was not satisfied with being the king's sister-in-law, married to his brother Philip, and to summarize this Herod's family, they were all dysfunctional. They were all weak, dysfunctional, idiot leaders. Now, keep in mind we're talking about biblical times here. Herodias, I'm not describing today's leaders. Although those same words could describe all that.
They apply.
But this man, who was apparently liked flattery, liked the party life, liked being the boss man. He liked being the boss man, and then maybe had a couple of little sips of wine too much in him, too much of the good fruit of the vine there. And at his birthday party, so it's a party atmosphere, and everybody's going, "Oh, happy birthday, Herodias! Oh, Herod, happy birthday!" He's the tetrarch there. He's the boss over that area. This area here, okay, right around that.
I'm pretty sure they drank a lot of wine.
I think so. Had the fruit of the vine there. Yes, that'd be wine.
Yep.
So here they are, and this little damsel, this girl, I'm going to say teenager, comes out and struts her stuff, and Herodias, who has now been invited to live with him in the palace, in Herod's palace there, Herod's house, has forsaken her husband Philip, kicked her out, didn't want her anymore. She left him, whatever, because she had her eyes on bigger, better things, which was Herod. So there she is. She's been invited to live with him now, and John Baptist struts right up to him in his court and says, "What you're doing is wrong. It is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife. You're uncovering your brother's nakedness, by the way, when you do that. When you lie with her, she is your brother's wife, and you've taken her now. Well, Herod was probably thinking, you know what? He may have a point to that. But Herodias said, you're not going to tell me what to do. You're a filthy old Jew, and you're not going to tell me what to do. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And if you're thinking I'm being hard on this whore, read the Word of God. By chapter 14 of Matthew, we've already gotten past what has happened here. They're looking back. Matthew is looking back on it and telling what has happened. So this Jesus now, his fame in 14 here has already spread, and he's thinking, oh my goodness, this is John Baptist who's rose from the dead. Well, there was something going on in Herod's mind, thinking there was something to what he was saying. He was out there teaching and preaching all this time about the Messiah coming. Read those words here. The starting of that says his fame, by this time Herod had heard the fame of Jesus, and he was thinking all these people following him. There was a lot of following for John the Baptist, and he had a huge crowd around him too, teaching and preaching these different things that we're not familiar with, but he kind of was, where he was in that area. So he says, you know what, but because he has such a following, I don't want to do anything to him because the people might revolt, the people might get mad. Herod was a weak leader, people-pleasing, little nothingness. That's what Herod was. And then this strong Herodias comes up and says, this is the way we're going to do it. So she gets her little daughter to dance before Herod. It pleases him. He's not thinking with his head, by the way. Winky, winky. Let's just go ahead and say it like it is.
Amen.
Okay? He's not thinking with this head. And he goes, oh, little honey child, whatever you want out there, I'll give you up to half of my kingdom. And instead, Bill, instead of her saying, I want a big old piece of jewelry, or I want that plot of land out there, or I want a pony. No. Herodias, the whore, had already told her, when he asked you if you want anything for doing this and pleasing him and making him aroused a little bit, this is what you're going to ask. That John Baptist, this is a woman scorned, folks. This is what happens when a woman is scorned and mad and hates you. Hates a righteous man. This is what an evil woman does when a righteous man tells them, you're wrong. This is wrong, and you know you're wrong. And she won't admit it. She won't say, I'm sorry. She's going to say, I want his head. And she says to her daughter, you tell Herod, I want the head of John the Baptist. And instead of him going, oh, now, little honey, you danced really good, but no, you can't have that. That's not reasonable. Ask me for something reasonable. I'll get you a piece of gold or jewelry or a pony or whatever else. No, he doesn't do that. He says, well, I said what I said, and all these people around, these lushes around me here heard me say that, so I can't back up now. I've got to give it to her. It says right there that he was sorry that he had said that to her. He made this oath to her. What does he do? Tell his guards to go down to prison. And by the way, John Baptist at this time is in his maximum guard prison. There around the palace, maximum guard. He's not going to get out. Okay? He and Jesus already had to talk about this, and Jesus said, well, he knew what was going to happen. And John Baptist said, it's time for me to go and tell him. I'm not going to back down. I'm going to tell him. I'm going to watch right in there and tell him right and wrong. And he did, and he lost his head over it. This is what happens.
Did Herod like him?
I think there was a respect for him, at least. I don't think he hated him.
No,
I don't think he hated John Baptist. No.
Because he regretted.
Yeah, it says he regretted him.
Yeah.
And the king was sorry, nevertheless, for the oath's sake. Notice that there are 9. He doesn't say, let's, what my notes say?
Head, you know?
Yeah, well, I just summed up kind of what was in my notes, but 9, such weakness. Herod could have said, no, ask me for something else. But instead, he said, he just said, go do it. So that's the opening of Matthew chapter 14, which is kind of sad, but it was all in God's will because John Baptist had done exactly what he was called to do, which was be the forerunner. Like the Old Testament prophets had said, there's going to be a forerunner, and this was him. John Baptist fulfilled that. His cousin, Jesus' cousin. Remember the story earlier in the Gospels of how his older parents, you know, his daddy couldn't speak because he didn't believe what was going to happen because they were already older too. And so when Jesus walked up to, in Mary's womb, walked up to Elizabeth, John Baptist leaped. Remember that? Well, this is the guy here.
He was. Elizabeth was pregnant with John the Baptist,
yep.
And then Mary was pregnant, of course, with Jesus.
Right.
So they must have grown up together.
Yeah, they were cousins. They were close cousins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure enough. Yep. Sure enough. Mm-mm-mm.
So that's why Jesus would cry.
Take a, right, this is his blood cousin.
Right.
Yeah, sure enough. Half-blood, we should say. Take note of verse 7 there, 14:7. Whereupon he promised with an oath to give her whatsoever she would ask. He was liquored up and horny, folks. This is what was going on. The party atmosphere. Herodias.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So see, she at this time she was not pleased with being his sister-in-law. She wanted to be the top.
The top puppy.
What's a female dog called?
The top. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
I want to be the top bitch.
Okay. There you go. Sure enough. So he's beheaded now. Now I want you to notice verse 12 though. It says too, and his disciples came and took up the body, which that's all was left from the neck down, just his body. Okay. And they carefully buried him with respect, with remorse, with sadness. They buried John Baptist. They showed him grace and honor there in his last day on earth. They buried him, and went and told Jesus. Now then, was that cruel what just happened to him? Absolutely. But folks, I want you to understand something. I want you to look at me right now and understand something. This woman, Herodias, and her daughter, when the disciples went and picked up John the Baptist, his body, and went and took it out, it was spurting out blood. Blood was everywhere. You know there was blood in that charger too. His head was in the charger. When they opened it up, it wasn't a pretty birthday cake. It said, "Happy birthday, Herod, you old coot." It was John Baptist's head. And Herodias and the daughter, I don't know if they went, "Ooh," like that. I think they went, I think they pulled a Nancy Pelosi. I think they stood and squirmed like, we don't have to listen to him anymore. He can't tell us what to do. He can't tell us we're doing wrong. That's what they did. But let me assure you folks out there in video land, and myself and you, Bill DuBois, and went and told Jesus, this Jesus that they went and told right there in verse 12, they're going to stand before him one of these days. Herodias is going to stand before this Jesus right here and look into his eyes, and he's going to look into her witchy, whorish, rebellious, nasty, sinful eyes and hear these words: "Depart from me, you worker of iniquity. I do not know you. Get out." And her daughter too, going to be right behind her. Not dancing anymore. She may be doing a Texas two-step across those flames, but that's what she's going to be doing. She's not going to be lustfully dancing anymore and seducing old horny men anymore. She's going to be in the fiery pits of hell. That's the assurance that we get out of that. So thank you, John Baptist, for what you did. And Herodias and little Herodias poor, watch out. And Herod too. Herod will be right there with them. Okay? Now then, we're going to get to, that's an interesting opening. We're going to get to have you ever heard it presented like that, Bill?
No, sir, I have not. But I had a quick question. When I thought back in the day when somebody died, they put them in a tomb.
Mm-hmm.
But would they bury people in the ground?
Mm-hmm. They could have buried them too, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Either or. It actually says buried there.
Yeah, that's what caused
and buried them, yeah. So yeah, sure enough. But whatever it was with honor. It was with dignity. They took his body with dignity and not just left it there because that was the remains of John Baptist. Okay?
Right.
So and I assure you, just as soon as that blade came down on the back of his neck, his spirit went to be with God. He went, wow, thank you very much, just like that.
Well, I'm sure he probably didn't fight it.
I wouldn't think so.
You know, just like when Paul got beheaded, same thing. You just laid on there and said, "Okay,
this is it. I run my race.
I'm coming.
I'll run my race."
Yep.
Sure enough. Now then, this next section from 13 to 21 is rather important, and we'll spend just a little bit of time on that too. It's the feeding of the 5,000. 5,000 that were counted. We could go ahead and pop that up to about, in the end, it was probably about 15,000, safe to say, that were fed. But this miracle is so important. It's in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's in all of them, and they give the same account but different words, and we'll see what Matthew says here. When Jesus heard of it, he departed. Now, heard what? Well, it just happened. The beheading. His cousin. Your cousin's been killed. His head's been cut off, and we buried him. So when Jesus he departed thence by ship into a desert place apart. And when the people had heard thereof, they followed him on foot out of the cities. So what had happened previously at the ending of 13, he had been over here in Nazareth. Okay, he had been in this where he grew up, and the area of Galilee, and now he's over here in where John Baptist had gone into Herod's palace right there. Well, right up to him, and then he was put in prison, the maximum guard prison. Okay, so now then he's over here at the Sea of Galilee. He gets on a boat, he gets on a ship, and he's going to go across. And there's a large group of people that are with him, his disciples, that are staying behind, and a large group of people too. Well, they walk around. They stay on the shore and they walk around. It's not a real big area. It's not a real big, huge sea. Some of them call it lake, but the Sea of Galilee. And he goes across there on the boat himself, by himself. Now watch this. Remember that part. He had heard thereof. They followed him on foot out of the cities. So this was very wise of Jesus. Herod already has his radar in on this man Jesus. He's already heard about him. He's probably keeping track of him. So Jesus is very wise in this. Instead of going to where John Baptist was or going up to Herod or whatever, trying to confront him, Jesus departs. He leaves the situation. He's cooling off himself, and he's letting them cool down a little bit too. Okay, because this has just happened. 14 says, and Jesus went forth and saw a great multitude and was moved with compassion toward them and healed their sick. So let's say thousands. I'm going to say thousands were healed by this right here. Legitimately healed. This was.
Go ahead.
What?
Well, this is not where he feeds the 5,000. This is before that, right?
And when it was evening, the disciples came to him, saying, this is a desert place, and the time is now past. Send the multitude away, and that they may go into the villages and buy themselves victuals, something to eat. But Jesus said unto them, they need not depart. Give ye them to eat. You feed them. And they say unto him, we have here but 5 loaves and 2 fishes. He said, bring them hither to me. Now, I want you to notice there. Yes, this is.
Yes, it is. I was going to say something, but I can't.
Okay. I want you to notice that here he is and here they are. His disciples. Now, keep in mind, this is Matthew 14 now, not Matthew 2 or 3. This is well into Matthew's gospel, about halfway through now. And they are still trying to kind of dictate to him what he needs to tell the people. Did you notice that there? There's a lot of people here. Why don't you send them away, send them into these nearby villages here so they can eat and then come back and listen to your teaching. And Jesus says, I'm here right now. They're here right now. You feed them. You do it. You do the work. You get out there and feed them. Did you see that, Bill? Did you see that right there?
Yes, I did.
Okay. This is the feeding of the 5,000. This is Matthew 14.
Right.
So there are opportunities. They go out, and it's late in the day. They've been following you for quite a while. They've been walking all around this here Sea of Galilee. You've been out there on the other side here. Now notice what he started doing right after he had some really bad news about a family member dying. He started healing people. Did you see that?
Yes.
Did you see that? It didn't say he went into his closet and mourned for 30 days. It didn't say he dropped to his knees and said, oh God in heaven, why is this happening to me? He started healing people. He was about his Father's business. John Baptist did what he was supposed to do, now he's dead.
This is also, in my opinion, the part where Jesus is really starting to reveal who he is.
Mm-hmm. Well, by now his fame is well spread
around,
Yeah.
but still, I think he's going to start be doing more and more now.
Mm-hmm. He's going to. Now notice there in 6, he's doing it not only for his inner circle disciples, he's doing it for the people too. It said in the previous verse there, and he healed their sick. He really healed them. They were the lame were allowed to walk again. The blind could see. The deaf could hear. The halt could feel and get up and walk. Those that had leprosy were healed. They were cleansed. Whatever the situation was, his power went into them and they were healed. It wasn't a money-making scheme. It wasn't a wave your handkerchief in front of the screen. It wasn't send me a bunch of money. He freely healed these people. It was real. What is going on today in our society on these TVs and on these telephones and stuff like that is crap, and it's putting a black mark on what the Son of God did here on this earth. It's nasty and it's wrong and it's misleading and it's unfortunate because people are following it by the thousands, being misled by false witnesses and false doctrines.
I'd like to make a comment here. I believe that when Jesus was healing these people, it was face to face with them.
Absolutely. Personal. It was personal.
I mean, it wasn't like, everybody who's sick, you're healed. No. He
Individually,
actually
one at a
walked
time.
up people one-on-one on it. He had to
One
have
at a
been
time.
exhausted. after that.
Absolutely. Remember, he was flesh.
He was flesh.
He was
man.
flesh.
And people saying, you know,
Yep.
go get your brother. Go
Mhm.
get your sister.
Yeah,
Bring
come
them here
on, yeah.
because this is real.
This is real. Sure enough.
Yeah.
Now, notice there in 15, like I said, the disciples are trying to give him, they're trying to advise the rabbi. Remember, they're calling him rabbi at this time, the teacher. He's the teacher. They're trying to advise him. But Jesus said unto them, they need not depart. You give them something to eat. And they go, but
That's all we got.
I got some lint in my pocket. This is all we have. They've seen miracles already. They've already seen the miracles. They're seeing them right in the previous verses there, folks. And he says, you feed them. Their first question is, how? How are we going to feed all these people?
Well, it's not like they're living lavishly in all this, where
No.
it's like, oh, I want a hot dog, and there it is.
Yeah, they're...
So they're not sure what Jesus is going to do.
And I put myself in these situations too. What would I do? Yeah, I go, I'm hungry,
Well,
and
I don't think Jesus is going to waste a miracle
no.
Mm-mm.
on a hot dog.
That would be a
Oh,
really
he
good
never
one.
he never misused his power.
I know that. I know.
17 says, and they say unto him, we have here but 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Well, folks, little is much when God is in it. It's a good old Kingsman song years ago. Little is much when God is in it. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Are you interested?
Yes, I am.
18 says, and he said, bring them hither to me. Bring what? Large crowd out there, folks. Get this in your mind. There's thousands of people out there. They're thronging in on him. He's been healing others by the thousands here in this crowd. His disciples are despondent. He just got bad news that John Baptist's head was cut off by the whore Herodias and given to the damsel, the damsel. And now then he is out here. He is probably exhausted. It is later on in the evening. He probably hasn't eaten either.
No,
he
I don't
needs
think
some
he has.
sustenance too. It's been a non-stop day for him. This is in every gospel. Read it, folks. Read it yourself. These few verses of what Christ Jesus did in this passage. These passages. He looks out at the crowd. His disciples are even at him right now going, we can't do this. How? What do you mean? What do you mean? What is he wanting from them? Have faith in God. I'm right here for you. You're wanting me to send them away. You're here before me. I haven't sent you away. I called you out. Now then, I'm healing these people. Why would I send them away to go over there for help? Help is right here. I'm help. I'm the source. What do you have? Well, we have this little bitty sack lunch here that this little boy brought. In fact, it might fill him up. It's his bread, his little buns. We're not talking loaves of bread here. We're talking little buns and a couple of little fishes he's going to nibble on while he's listening to you preach. Bring them here. Bring them here. And he commanded that the multitude sit down on the grass and took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and looking up to heaven, he blessed and brake and gave the loaves to his disciples and the disciples to the multitudes. Now then, you people have gone from being my administrators, my board of directors, to servants. That's what we need to do sometimes. We need to go from trying to tell the Son of God what to do to saying, what would you want me to do? Huh? Get that right in your own mind. Get that right, little people. I don't care who you are today. Get it right. He's God. I'm his creation. He's God. I'm his child. He's in charge. I do what he say do. He's the boss. I'm the servant. Peter, Philip, Andrew, Bartholomew, all of y'all, bring them the loaves over here. Who has the fish over? Go get them. You bring them here to me. And now then, I'm going to take them here. What did he do first? Look up to heaven. He looked up to heaven and said, thank you, God, for what we do have. Huh? Have you done that lately, folks? Have you thanked God for what you do have instead of going, I wish I had more? That ain't the way it works with God. That's not the way it works. I got to get right. He's already right. I've got to get right. Notice what he said there. Looking up to heaven. Who's in heaven? He acknowledged his Father.
He always did that.
He did exactly what he was supposed to do, folks. You have to understand what's written in these words here. In every one of these Gospels, every one of the accounts, these people saw what happened here. So understand, Mark saw it from Peter's point of view because Peter was there. Peter was probably the one that came up and said, let's send these people away. They're making me mad. But he told Peter, you go get the stuff, and now you serve them. Got to be a servant.
Mm-hmm.
We serve him. And at the end of 19 there, and says, and the disciples to the multitudes. Now then, you're the servers. And 20 says, and they did all eat and were filled. And they took up the fragments. Now that word fragments doesn't mean little pieces that were dropped on the ground. It says, and they took up the fragments that remained, 12 baskets full. You had 12 baskets left over. From the beginning, you had little bitty amount over here that you could hold in your hands, little bite-sized bread and 2 little fishes that the little boy was going to eat. And he just happened to have it with a little sack lunch, if you want to say that. And at the end of it, when the master got through, 12 full baskets, untouched. How many tribes of Israel?
12.
How many foundations in heaven?
12.
How many baskets left?
12.
You see a pattern going on here? Huh?
Could you
How many
imagine?
apostles?
12.
I got enough for every one of you.
How
I
many
got enough
doors in heaven's walls? 12.
12. Hmm?
Could you imagine that food? It must have been just falling from the sky.
It was miraculously before their eyes enough when Jesus blessed it, when Jesus said, thank you, Lord. Are you thankful today? Are you people thankful today? Are you gluttonous? Are you greedy, gluttonous, worldly people wanting more and never satisfied? Or are you having the heart that Jesus is trying to scratch in that nasty, worldly, natural way off of you and going, if you just follow me and let me do what I'm supposed to be doing, and if you just maybe just close your mouth and do what I say do, it'll work out. This is what he's saying here. Huh?
The
20.
anchor holds. The anchor holds.
Absolutely, sure enough. And they did all eat and were filled. Now, folks, do you think he's talking about just their stomachs there? Were just their stomachs pooching out? Because who is going to be teaching here? Who's teaching this lesson? Jesus the Christ.
Mm-hmm.
It's in all 4 Gospels, folks, and we're filled. Are you filled today? Are you filled with His Word? Are you just wanting more gluttony? Are you wanting more stuff? Are you wanting a bigger boat? Are you wanting another 4-wheeler you can pull around on your $75,000 truck and $45,000 trailer going down the road going, look at me? Or are you filled? Are you filled today? Notice here, 21 says, and they that had eaten were about 5,000 men beside women and children. Now, let's say
Over and above.
that each of these men, just conservatively, had a wife. Let's just say that. Now, how many is there? 10,000.
If they
What
brought
if
children,
each one of them had one child?
15,000.
15,000. Could have been more, but let's say conservatively around 15,000 people there.
You know, for that time, there had to have been, for that amount of people to be there, to travel that distance, whatever the distance they traveled.
Well, around the Sea of Galilee,
Yeah.
right there, yeah.
To I don't know how long did it take for these people to?
It was late in the day. It had taken all day.
Yeah, but I'm sure that the word got out and people just kept on coming and coming and coming. You know?
Yep.
God, I wish I had been there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to have seen that.
Sure enough. Alrighty, let's get to this next part here. And Connie, if you would, this is Connie's chapter, but if you will turn over a few pages to your right to Mark 6, Mark chapter 6, and look at verse 47 while I start this next part. Okay, now we've gone through the first part. The beheading of John the Baptist has happened, and we see what Jesus did immediately after that. He leaves the situation. He goes about his Father's business. I want you to take note of that. I want you to take note of that. What he does in his Father's business is heal people, and he's setting them free. He's filling their stomachs full, but he's also doing a miracle from God. Every one of them, every one of these people had sat down. I want you to notice that. He set them down in 50s and 100s. He was very orderly in what he did on this on this trip here. When they had sat down, all of them were in awe, going, what is this man going to do? What are we doing out here? And then when he stood up and all of them saw him, it was like an amphitheater, them looking at him and going, wait a minute, hold on. There were many colors there too. This is the area where there was purple being dyed. There was a purple dye. Okay? So I'm sure there was a very beautiful colors of browns and greens and reds and blues and yellows and purples and whatever else color. So it looked very pretty there. It was a very nice looking hillside there with the Sea of Galilee. So when he stands up and they see this commotion going on, and the 12 come to him and they start dispersing out, everybody's going, what's going on? What are we doing here? You know, I'm hungry. What's going on? And then he does this. And they see that. They saw that happening. And then they watched the miracle. They watched that. They were all going in amazement. And then this disciple came over here and gave, and I have enough for my family, me and my family, my mom, my wife and my little boy and my little girl, whoever's, and the other one, the other disciple. This took a while. This didn't happen like that. This took a while to disperse 15,000 meals out. And Jesus was probably standing there with a tear in his eye going, bless him, Lord. Have mercy on them, Father. I've healed a lot of them. May they hear your word now. May they understand who I am, having mercy on them. These people were hungry. They were following this man to learn something about life. Now, were all of them saved that day? No, it does not say that. Were all of them there to see a miracle work? Yes. Were all of them there to maybe see a sideshow? Yep, sure. We have to understand that. 15,000 people, it doesn't say they all left saved. It doesn't say that in any of the Gospels.
I have to admit, I'm starting to want some fish.
Are you? I got some sardines at the house.
No.
Boneless, skinless, and olive oil.
I hate sardines.
I haven't eaten the sardines.
Okay,
now.
Jesus is going to walk on the water now. This is the
Yes.
third part of this here chapter. Jesus walks on the sea. And it says straightway. Now, I want you to notice that. Have we already said that once before?
This was a big deal to all of the
not yet.
disciples because you get to hear this more than once.
Right, sure enough. No, I want you to look at verse 22. It says in straightway. That's with urgency. I want you to look in 27. Straightway, with urgency. I want you to look in 31, immediately. Okay? So when we read those verses, I want you to remember that word. I want you to remember that there's a time factor. Time is of the importance. Time is of the essence here. Okay? So 23 says, and straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side while he sent the multitudes away. So now then, it's just the opposite. He had sailed over. They walked around. He stays with them. They get back in the boat. Wait a minute. He came across the sea and nothing had happened. He just boop, 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 sailed across the sea. Now then, he tells his disciples, folks, look, have you thought about this before? He just sailed across the sea and nothing happened. Just right across the sea. They walked around on the shore. You get it? Are you following me here?
I'm getting it, yeah.
And now then, he stays on the shore and says, I'm gonna do the crowd control here. All of y'all get in this here ship and go back across the sea.
I'm thinking
Why?
more of a little boat.
It's a boat.
Yeah, this is amazing right here.
Okay, now watch this. Have you thought about this before? What's about to happen?
Not the way you've been preaching.
But
it here.
what's about to happen? Notice this.
I know.
And when he sent the multitude away and went up into a mountain apart to pray, and when the evening was come, he was there alone. Now, Connie, you read Mark 6:47 through 52.
This is from the Amplified.
Oh, I like it.
So there will be some
Little
little extra
extra,
thingies
yeah.
in there. I guess not really extra. Now, when evening had come, the boat was in the middle of the sea, and Jesus was alone on the land. Seeing the disciples straining at the oars because the wind was against them, at about the fourth watch of the night, 3 to 6 a.m., he came to them, walking on the sea, and acted as if he intended to pass by them. But when they saw him walking on the sea, they thought it was a ghost, and cried out in horror, for they all saw him and were shaken and terrified. But he immediately spoke with them and said, "Take courage, it is I am. Stop being afraid." Then he got into the boat with them, and the wind ceased as if exhausted by its own activity, and they were completely overwhelmed because they had not understood the miracle of the loaves, how it revealed the power and deity of Christ. But, in fact, their heart was hardened, being oblivious and indifferent to his amazing works. Wow. And they didn't even mean for it to be that way. It's just the way the human heart is.
That is human nature, yes. But notice, I want you to notice why I set this up the way I did, the way the Lord did in His Word. He stayed on the shore.
He knew what he was going to do.
He knew what the sea was going to do, yet He sent all of His disciples, not just the ones that He was frustrated with or didn't like too much, or with all of them. He told all of them to get in the boat and go back across there. And then what happened? A raging storm. In Mark's, the KJV, it says they toiled, they strained because of the waves. This was a rough, if you'll notice on one side of the Sea of Galilee, there's a lot of high mountains. So when it comes across there from the Mediterranean Sea, it comes down. It's already filled with warm, moist Mediterranean air. So if it meets any cool air coming from the other side, it's automatically turbulent. Well, we have tornadoes here, but what they had there was a raging storm on this little area of water here. And he knew it. So there they were, and he comes out walking on the water. Walking on the water. They see him, and they are astonished, and they say, "Oh, that's a ghost out there. There's a ghost walking on the water." Back to Matthew, it says, "But the ship was now in the midst of the sea," in 24, "tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary." Is that not like we are today, folks? Jesus sent His disciples out, and they're tossed to and fro. He has gone now into heaven. Is that not like us today here on this earth? We're still in our natural state, in our natural bodies, but we've had a transformed mind, yet we're still here on this earth and facing the toils of life. But does He not come walking to us? Is His Spirit not right here with us?
Yes, it is.
This is setting us up today, showing us today where you and I are today in our lives. We are these disciples on that boat, and we've been sent out by our Master, and we're doing what He said to do, whether we understand it or not, which we don't always do. And He said, "Don't worry, I'm going to be," what did He say right there? They were confounded. They were astounded what was going on. That's what we find ourselves into in the life's struggles that we go through today. But where's Jesus? He's in heaven looking down on us going, I've got you. If you'll just hold on, I've got you right here. We're the disciples on the water. We're disciples today. We're His followers. We follow Jesus in His teachings, and we still go through struggles. He didn't send them back across and it was smooth sailing, folks. He sent them back out to be in the storm.
And you know, they were all going through an emotional storm because as the chapter started out, John the Baptist had been beheaded, and so many of them knew him.
Yep, sure enough. Philip and Andrew and all that, they were tight. And it was Jesus' cousin, by the way.
Right.
Now then, 25 says, "And in the fourth watch of the night," this is around 3 a.m., okay? Now, I want you to take note of that, folks. I want you to take note of that timing. Every word in the Bible is there for a reason. Every line is there for a reason. "The fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw Him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, It is a spirit, and they cried out for fear." They were not bold lions right now. They were scaredy cats. They're in a little boat. There's 12 of them, and they're out there by themselves. Now, then when Jesus, if you'll notice throughout the Gospels, Jesus is present with them a lot. Most of the times it's pretty good. When He goes out to be somewhere else and something happens to them, what's going on? I'm a scaredy cat now. Have you noticed that? He's not right there with them. He's not right there with them right here. But who sent them out there? He did. He did.
That shows something has changed. They really do depend on Him. They know they depend on Him.
So He's walking on the sea, and when the disciples saw Him, they thought it was a ghost. They were feared. But here again, that word, straightway, with urgency, Jesus spake unto them, saying, "Be of good cheer, it is I." And I like what the Amplified said. How were we introduced in the Old Testament? Moses in the burning bush. I am. Who is it? I am. Huh? That should have rang a bell with all the old die-hard law readers and teachers and Pentateuch followers. They should have said, hold on. Be not afraid. They were full of fear. In 26, he tells them in the next verse, don't be afraid. And Peter answered and said unto them, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on water. Now, did Jesus say, hey, Peter, just to prove who I am, I want you to come out here on the water? No. Peter said, Jesus, if that's you out there, I want to come out there to you. Put yourself in the boat. You're in the boat today. We're on this earth. Put yourself in the boat. Would you call out to Jesus when you knew that was him, the Son of God, standing there in your life and you're going through a struggle? Would you say, I'm going to step out in the storm. I'm going to step out in this financial tragedy. I'm going to step out in this physical ailment that I have, and I'm going to go to Jesus. Would you do that? Jesus didn't say, oh no, you stay in the boat. It's safe in the boat. No, what did he do? Well, come on out. Water's fine. Come on out.
And a lot of us would say, yeah, we'd rather be with you in the storm than in this boat without you.
Let's see what happens here. I want you, I'm not going to dog on Peter on this at all.
No,
I'm not going to dog on him at all.
I think we are Peter.
We're Peter here. Look here. He said, and straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And Peter said, bid me, tell me to come out there to you, Lord. I'm going to put my faith in you. I want you to say, come on out here, Peter. Come on out here. Peter volunteered. He volunteered. Jesus didn't say, Peter, you come on out and show him how to do it.
Yeah.
Notice this. And it said, and he said, come. He didn't say no. He didn't say stay in the boat. And when Peter, in middle 29, and Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water.
Mm-hmm. But I think he expected the storm to stop there close to the Lord, and then he saw it was still happening, and that's what distracted him, and he started to sink.
I think it got even worse. I think a big wave came and hit him. I think I think the boat started creaking real bad. I think the other disciples was hollering out and crying. I think it was dark, maybe some lightning going on and thunder going on. And here this storm is going on in the midst of it, and Peter steps out and it says, and he walked on water. But now what happens? In our natural state, we take our minds off the master. We take our eyes and thoughts off the master, our focus off the master, and start focusing on what? Our personal circumstances. This is what happens. Okay, this is what happens. I'm not dogging on Peter at all. Mm-mm. In fact, I'm kudoing Peter. 2 thumbs up here, dude. You did it. You walked on the water. And it said, and he walked on the water to go to Jesus. Notice that. It said he went to that man just said, because why? Jesus introduced himself out there. Now it's dark. The boat's tossing to and fro. And they're maybe straining, going, it's a ghost out there, we're scared. And Jesus said, it's I am is here. Well, Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come out there to you. Come. You have to understand that. Put yourself in the boat. You're in the boat today. We're in the boat. We're on this earth.
I guess though Peter was the only one that believed at that point because nobody else went out.
Let's see.
Okay.
And it said, but when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, started going down. He was standing on the water, folks. You got to understand, he was riding the waves in his sandals, in his outer garment, in his tunic there. He was riding on top of the waves. I don't even think his ankles was wet. Maybe from the rain, I don't know. But he was standing on the water, people. We have to understand that. And then a big wave crashed. Something even more so. You're in the storm and you're going, I can handle this. I can handle this. And then something else happens. Something else bad happens. A family member dies. You're diagnosed with cancer. You lose all your money. Your house burns. Your car gets sold. Whatever else. Something else happens. Oh no! Look, it's even worse. Start to sink. Start to sink now. What happens? Look here. And he cried, saying, Lord, save me. I want you to understand, folks, right there. He didn't go, O Lord Adonai, God of our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, O ruler of all the universe, O merciful God. Shortest prayer in the Bible. Shortest prayer in the Bible. Most direct prayer in the Bible. Lord, save me. That's what you got to do right there, folks. Did you see that? Did you read it? Read it in your Bible. Read, what does it say right there, Bill? Read the end of 30. Or wherever yours starts and stops. What does it say?
30 says, but when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. Save me, Lord, he shouted.
Perfect prayer. Perfect. Sometimes folks just look up to heaven and shout out, Lord, save me. That's what you got to do. You don't go into a bunch of theological mumbo jumbo. You don't go into your own personal thoughts and feelings. Direct. Lord, I'm in bad shape and I need saving. Lord, save me. 3 words. Perfect prayer. Shortest prayer in the Bible. Lord, save me. What did he do? I'm busy over here. No, I don't like you. What happened?
How long can you tread water, Peter?
And immediately, folks, we already saw straightway. Now look what it says. Immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? You got to stay focused on me. Jesus was right up there. I don't know if he was right next to him. I think he was out a little ways. I actually think Jesus was out a little ways and Peter was going to walk out there to him. The old bulldog, straight-laced, right to the point. Peter, I think he said, I'm going to walk out there. Y'all watch this. Y'all watch me. Well, you can't trust in yourself. He said, that's Jesus out there, and I'm going to go to him. Jesus, can I come out to you? Come on out here. And he did. He started walking on the water, and then the waves got bad. Your situation gets bad. We just said it. That's what we're talking about. You know what I'm talking about. And Jesus was right out there, and he said, oh, what's wrong with you? How come you don't have more faith in me? You was just standing on the water, dude. Now get back in the boat. Huh? Look what happens. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hands and caught him and said, Oh, ye of little faith, wherefore did thou doubt? Why you doubting? Why'd you focus on the situation and not on the storm master, the sea master, the wave master? Haven't you heard me before go, wind and waves, shh, just calm down. And they did. Have you not heard me that? No. And immediately, so 32 says, and when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased. He picks him up, and the storm master, also the storm causer. Mm-hmm. Can I throw that in there too?
Oh, yes, sir.
The one that caused this, the one that allowed the storm, the one that put his own people in the storm, said, okay, I'm through with y'all. Shh. Now they're all in the boat. Peace. Huh? Had to get a little closer to Jesus, didn't he? Do we have to get closer to Jesus to calm our storm sometimes? Yeah. Stay in the fold. Stay in the fold. That's what that says just then. And it says that, and 33 says, and when they were in the ship, and they came and worshipped him, saying, of a truth. They, all of them now. Did they see Peter walking on the water? Yeah, they did. Sure did. They saw him walking on the water. Did they see Jesus out there? Did they hear him go, come on out here, Peter? Do you think James and John, the sons of thunder, went, it's thundered on its own. We're going to sit here for a little while. They saw him walking on the water. And then they saw him start to sink. Do you think when he started to sink, they reached over and tried to get him?
I think he was too far out.
I think he was too far out.
I agree with that.
They were probably going, oh, there goes Peter. And Matthew might have been going, whew, there goes Peter. No, I don't know.
He's been giving me a hard time.
He's writing this here, so this is his account of it. But it said, of a truth, of a surety, there is no doubt. You, Jesus, right there, the one that we just saw, and as on about, you're the Son of God. There's absolutely no doubt. You're the storm calmer downer. You calmed our storm down. Of a truth, thou art the Son of God. Now that's that part there, and it says, Connie, read 34 and 35
of Matthew 14. When they had crossed over the sea, they went ashore at Gennesaret. And when the men of that place recognized him, they sent word throughout all the surrounding district and brought to him all who were sick. And they begged him to let them merely touch the fringe of his robe, and all who touched it were perfectly restored. Oh my goodness, isn't that okay? So they go from here just up a little ways, up to the north there, to you said Gennesaret. We'll go with that. And so they go up a little ways there to the north west side of the Sea of Galilee, which is just a little ways up from the sea where they were. And notice what happens here. And when the men of that place had knowledge of him, they sent out into all the country round about and brought unto him all that were diseased. How do you think they had knowledge of him? They'd heard about him. Word of mouth.
Word of mouth, yeah.
How does other people have knowledge of him today?
Mhm.
Word of mouth.
We need to tell them and live a life that they want to know more about.
Bingo. Our lives, Christ believers' lives. And besought him, they asked him, they came up to Jesus saying, if you would just touch, if I could just come up to you and get as close as that Peter did, that was out of the book, we just heard about it. You just healed, you just physically saved one of your disciples. We heard that he walked on the water, and then he started looking at the situations, and he started to drown, and you picked him up out of there and put him back in the boat, and everything was safe. If I could just come up to you and just touch the hem of your garment, I'd be made whole. I'd be cleansed. I'd be all right. I'd be saved. If I could just touch the hem of his garment, the zit, T-Z-I-T, T-Z-I-T. That's what it means way back over in the Old Testament when it says, and he comes with even in the wings. That's what it's talking about. The wing down there shimmering around down on by his feet. If you can just touch that. If you touch somebody's feet, what are you doing? Bow down to them. You humble before them. And as many as were touched, not all of them, and as many as touched were made perfectly whole. So Isaiah already talks about that. Healing his wing. That is Matthew chapter 14. Now then, Connie, before you turned off, come up here and spin again for next
While
week.
she's doing that, can I make a comment?
Yes. Golly, I wish I'd read my notes.
When Jesus got back in the boat,
Acts already.
You put it on Limitations, but it was on Acts.
Well, already.
Acts chapter. Oh, the pressure.
It's 28 chapters.
I know. Let's say 17.
Acts 17 already. For next Sunday, that's the 27th.
I think so. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because today's the
so
20th.
before I spin, I have a
Sure,
comment.
good.
Once Jesus got back in the boat, and even though out on the water, he told Peter, where is your faith? He gets back in the boat and he says, listen guys, I just fed 15,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 dinky little fish.
Yeah.
What more do I have
Yeah.
to do?
And you're sinking? Yeah, right.
You know?
That's a good observation.